Welcome to the channel Tribe. This episode is a part of our webinar series Tribecast. In this episode, we are having Sumit Punjabi talking on Appium overview and demo.
Hello all, good evening. Welcome to Tribecast, kind of a fresh season of our webinar series. And we today have Sumit Punjabi, who is working as a senior automation engineer at Nuance Communication Pune. He is also one of our Pune City Hero. He is running, the Pune chapter of meetups and other events there. So welcome Sumit, welcome all the participants, and I'm passing on the control to you now.
Okay, thank you, Mahesh. Thank you for the warm welcome. Welcome all. Good evening. Welcome to the session. Basically, I'll be talking about Appium, and we'll have a small demo as well going forward. So, little bit about me. So, as Mahesh mentioned, I'm currently working as a senior QA engineer at Nuance, and I'm an automation enthusiast with over more than 5 years of experience now, with working on mobile API as well as web testing. And you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. And coming to Test Tribe, so I have been part of the Test Tribe community since the first Pune meetup that we had. And since then I have been as a volunteer and also contributing towards community. So it's all about giving back to the community whatever we learn. And so it's a good experience so far, and I've learned a lot of things, and yeah, we'll keep on doing the same. Coming to Appium, talking about Appium. So Appium is nothing but it's an open source automation, a test automation framework, or you can say it's a tool which we can use to automate the native, hybrid, as well as the mobile web applications. So, and it is built on top of the WebDriver protocol, which is basically the Selenium WebDriver that it uses. And you can also call it as Selenium for the apps. So the name Appium comes from that. And we have a website, appium.io. So there they have this definition as well for the Appium, and there are links to download the Appium libraries, the client libraries that are there. So basically, like Selenium, we can write our test in any language, like in Java, JavaScript, Ruby, then Python. So similarly with Appium, we have different client libraries available. We can write our Appium test scripts in Java, JavaScripts, and Ruby, Python. So if you go to this URL, you can find that. I'll just open it. Are you able to see my screen? Mahesh, is it visible, the Appium
Yes,
page?
sir. It's on.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what it says. When you go here, there are like tutorial videos you can go through for there are sample code available. And when you go to the download section, which is visible, downloads. Just 1 second, there is yeah. So once you go here, you can see the libraries which are available. We have for Ruby, Python, Java, JavaScript, PHP, and also for robot framework, that is a Python-based robot framework. And then there is Appium Desktop, which is for available for Mac, Windows, and as well as Linux. So I'll come to that different ways of installing Appium into your machine. And so yeah, that's much about Appium introduction. And okay, next. So this is basically an Appium architecture which would be for Android. So coming to as in coming to Android, we have the client libraries, as I said. which can be in any language. It can be in Java, Python, Ruby, C hash, and then C sharp. And then we have APM server. Then there is APM Espresso or the UI Automated 2 driver, and then there is your mobile, which can be a real device, or it can be an emulator or a simulator. So in terms of Android, it is emulator, and in terms of iOS, it is simulator. And the driving between the client and the APM server is the W3C protocol, which is now the compliance for the Selenium driver as well. So it was the mobile JSON wire protocol, and now we have the W3C standard WebDriver protocol. And then between the server and the driver, we have the server request, which is made, and then it goes on to the mobile device. It can be the real device or the emulator. So I'll talk about the APM server. The APM server, which is here. So it is nothing but just like a web server. APM implements the WebDriver protocol. As I said, the API with the functions that are there, which was developed for the purpose of browser automation, the Selenium. And it is nothing but the APM, it's nothing but just like a backend web or an API server, which can be at your company where the APIs are hosted. And also what we can do is we can host APM on a server, which is connected to the public internet, and give anybody a chance to run the session on our devices that are connected. So this is how the cloud platforms usually have their configuration in place. Like you must have heard about BrowserStack, Sauce Lab, and Amazon. We have a Device Farm. So there are different cloud services available, cloud, where you can run your test against their devices, which they have in their as in a environment set up, and you can point your test to their devices and run. So this is how they set up. And so usually if we can have a local device lab set up in your organization as well, if you want to run the APM test in parallel. And yeah, so this code below here, you can see it's like, you must have seen, it's like a Java code where we are initializing the Android driver, and it is giving the some URL and then passing some capabilities, and then driver.find element, which is common for Selenium, and trying to get the text. So this is nothing but under the hood, each of these commands are actually triggering an HTTP request to the APM server. So each command where we have the driver, a driver.find element, and element dot, so these are nothing but an HTTP request coming to the APM server. So as we see in this diagram, we have the APM server, and then we have different client libraries in Java, in Python. So it's nothing but we have we have like a wrapper around these HTTP requests in form of these languages, which convert the language constructs into HTTP request. And coming to the driver which drives the execution, and which, example, if you have requested driver.find element in Java here, and it goes to the APM server, then it in turns asks the driver for that APM driver.find element, and the same command is passed on to the mobile device where you have your application under test. So we'll talk about more about Espresso driver, more about the UI Automator 2 driver, and yeah, let's see ahead. So this is the APM driver. This is the APM driver that we have. So as I said, these are the basically these are the driving factors for your APM test, for your APM session, for your APM server. So as of now, there is an APM Espresso driver, which is the latest driver which is running. This in terms I'm talking about for Android. For iOS, we have separate drivers that are there. So for today, we are going to see mostly about Android and how the under the hood, when you try to automate an application in Android, how things work. So that for iOS, we can have a separate session, or I'll need a different setup for that. And for today, like we'll focus more on Android part of it. And then there is the UI Automator 2 driver, APM UI Automator 2 driver, and then there is an APM Android driver. So this APM Android driver is nothing but it's a UI Automator 1, which was there earlier, which is like an old driver not used currently. So currently the UI Automator 2 driver and the Espresso driver is used. And then there is APM ADB, and then there is APM support as well. So I'll talk about each one of these. And yeah. Talking about the APM Android driver, as I said, it is the UI Automator 1, which is completely old. And then we have APM Espresso driver and APM UI Automator 2 driver. So all these three drivers extend the APM base driver. And so the APM base driver also contains more libraries. It also contains the APM Chrome driver, which you can use to which is actually used under the hood to automate the Chrome in an Android. If you are the web application, if you say you have to automate in your mobile application. So I guess everyone is like almost clear with what we have. Like we have the native mobile application, which is the like the which mobile application resides in your uh, mobile as an application, for example, say Facebook. And then we have an hybrid application, which hybrid is nothing but a mix of native and web. Say for example, if you click on any page in your application and it redirects you to a web view or a web app, web as in Chrome. So it is kind of an hybrid application. And when we talk about web apps is nothing but if you go to Facebook, m.facebook.com in your Chrome browser, it's kind of a mobile web application. And yeah, so as I said, so right now, as currently UI Automator 2 driver is officially deprecated by Google. It's like Google is not providing much support or much help into it, and they are currently working on the Espresso driver. But the APM community continues to provide support till the Espresso driver is mature enough and developed enough so that UI Automator 2 driver can be deprecated by APM. So these are nothing but like these are libraries, these are APIs which have the code written under the hood to execute the test. There are different functions, there are different methods available in these libraries which drive the automation. And so currently Espresso driver is what Google is supporting, but APM continues its support for the UI Automator 2 driver. And also the APM Android driver is used, as in there are some functionalities, there are some methods that are used from these driver. And as I said, this APM automation also uses APM ADB and APM support. So this is what we are talking in terms of Android for now. So APM ADB is nothing but a wrapper around ADB, which is Android Debug Bridge. So this is nothing but another set of library functions which provides us various commands for finding the connected devices. Say for example, if you want to run your test on some device and you want to see, the APM wants to check uh, which device you want to run the test on. So it uses the ADB, and there is an APM ADB which is a library which is a wrapper around this ADB, and it checks the connected devices. And if you want to install or uninstall some application from the device, it makes use of ADB. And then some device details if you want to fetch. And I have a question. How is Android Studio different from APM? So I'll talk about it in the end if it's okay. Mahesh, can we take questions in the end or? Uh,
Yeah, Sumit, whichever way it suits you. In case it is in flow for you, then you can answer it right away, or you can have it at the end.
okay, so I would take this answer in the end, or if it's getting cleared throughout this session, it's well and good. So I'll also cover the like Android Studio part of it and APM part of it. So we'll come to that. I'll answer your question. So yeah, as I said, then there is APM support as well, which was mentioned in the earlier slide. Uh, so that is nothing but it is a supporting library. As I said, it provides us the file image operations which are used across multiple APM modules. Say, for example, in one of your tests, you want to open the library, like as in uh, upload some image or like file operations and or image operations that you want to perform in your test. In those situations, the APM support library comes in place. And yeah, so it's pretty much about it. I'll go ahead and, like, if we don't have any questions as of now so far, which is best IDE for mobile application, Eclipse for or Android Studio. So for mobile automation, I would say Android Studio is not an IDE. Android Studio basically is used for development of the Android application or debugging of an Android application. And we do need Android Studio as in terms of running the APM test, but not as in the whole part of Android Studio, only the Android SDK part of it. And I'll come to that. And you can use Eclipse for mobile automation. You can use IntelliJ. So I would prefer IntelliJ as of now, because like I have used it and it's a good IDE, and it is similar to Eclipse. And but like if you have like, it gives you good command and good like plugins which you can use. And okay, I have a question here. How can we identify differences between UI Automator 2 driver and UI Automator 1 driver? So I would say the difference would be in terms of the libraries that they are supporting or the SDK that they are supporting. So currently with UI Automator 2, as in if you have Android OS version more than 7 or 8, so you have to use the UI Automator 2 driver for execution. UI Automator 1 won't work there. So there are a lot of, as I said, these are nothing but libraries. So a lot of new functions keep on adding in these drivers to support the automation. And like depends on your usage as well. So currently you can use UI Automator 2 driver, and as I said, it has advanced libraries functions which can be helpful in your execution of the test. Okay, I'll move ahead. So this is just a picture of a APM architecture in terms of iOS. So I'm not going much deep dive into it. We'll have a separate session, or I can give you some references to it to understand the iOS architecture. So just like Android, uh, we had the Espresso driver or the UI Automator 2 driver. Here with iOS, we have the XUI driver, and the libraries here remain same. It can be Java, Python, Ruby, and then the APM server remains same. So depending on the command it receives, the APM server, say for example, I have shown here, like we have a Java code where we say we need a new Android driver. So it would initiate the new, as in it would go to the Android driver and start the session. But if we have iOS driver here, so what it would do it would the APM server would listen, like get the command, and it would initiate the iOS driver, as in the APM XUI driver under the hood, and have the automation running for the iOS device. To help the execution on iOS device, like we had like there is a process which is followed for Android. We need the like the as we need the APM Espresso driver or the UI Automator driver, we also need the server which actually resides in your mobile device, or the emulator which is running your test, which has your application under test. And in terms of iOS, we need the WDA, which is WebDriver Agent, which should be running in your iOS mobile or simulator. So when we execute the iOS test, what happens is like uh, the WebDriver agent first is installed in that device, and then the execution takes place ahead. So yeah, not going much deep dive into it into iOS, but there is a similar structure which is followed, just like Android. We have like the uh, driver, and then there is server. This server is different from the APM server. This server is like, it can be on your local machine, as I said. It can be on or a remote machine which you want to run the test. So this, as I said, uh, it is a backend web or an API server. So if you want to run your test on those machines, on Linux machine, on Mac machine, on Windows, you need these APM server running. The devices should be connected to those machines. So this server, the APM server, as I said, is different from what we have here in the mobile device. This is the WebDriver agent in terms of iOS, and in terms of Android, we have the Espresso server or the UI Automator 2 server, depending on what driver you are using in terms of automation. Okay, I'll proceed with the next topic that we have. Yeah, so I'll talk a bit about setting up your for APM. What all do you need? What all should you keep in mind while setting up the APM? So starting with, I talk about Windows for now, and I have some references or resources where you can go and check for Linux machine as well as for the Mac machine. So the basic setup is same, but depending on, like, say for example, on Windows, we can't automate the iOS application for now. So there are tools available like Test Project, which you can use on Windows machine and automate the iOS test as well. But with plain APM for now, you can't automate the iOS application on Windows machine. So on Windows machine, the setup which I have mentioned is basically for Android, running your Android test. And on Mac, you can run both. On Linux, you can run both. Uh, and apart from the Android and iOS, you can also run the desktop automation from APM. So they have support for running the Windows desktop application, if I'm not wrong, and also a Mac application if you want to run the test. Uh, yeah, so I'll quickly go through what setup do you need on Windows machine in terms of the APM. So you would need Node.js basically installed. So I would just run up my command prompt, and I'll just share. So Mahesh, is it visible, the command prompt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'll do is like for basically Node.js installation, you can go to the URL. I'll just open it up for you guys. So yeah, you can download the Node.js, the stable version that is there, and it is applicable for Mac as well as on Linux or Windows, and you can then install it. So once you have installed the Node.js, you can check on your machine, on your terminal or your command prompt by running the command node-v. So it gives you the version that you have installed. And as part of a node there also comes a node package manager, which is npm. You don't need to install it separately. Once you have installed node.js, it would come as part of it. And also you can check the version for npm by running the command npm minus v hyphen v. So for APM, you need node above version 10. So any version, any stable version about 10 is good. So yeah, once you have node installed in your uh, machine, there are two ways of installing APM here. So one, we have APM desktop, which is the GUI application. And if you don't want to install the Node.js, you can directly install APM desktop. So it would install all the libraries that you need as part of APM automation. But if you want to have the Node.js installed, you can have both as well in your machine. So once you have the node installed in your machine, to install the APM via command line, you need to run the command npm install -g. G is for global, and then you can mention APM here. So what it would do is it would go to the node modules, as in node packages which are available, and it would install the latest version of APM. So I have already installed it on my machine. And once that package is installed, you can check which version is installed and whether it is installed correctly or not by running the command apm -v. So it tells me that I have 1.13.0 version of APM installed. This is not the latest version, uh, because I actually ran out in some trouble yesterday when I had installed all the latest version of APM as well as the Android Studio. So what I did was, like, I went to the last stable version that I had used and where things were working fine, and I installed the 1.13 version. So to install a particular version through npm, when you run the command npm installed -g apm, you can mention the version by giving at the rate here and 1.13.0, whichever version you want. So that would install that particular version only. Uh, and so as I said, like, just like Node, you have npm package manager, which is like it is nothing but library. So if you go to APM and you search for npm, it tells you the latest version is 1.7.1. Uh, yeah, it tells me that 1.17.0 is the latest version of APM package manager which is available. But I went ahead and installed with 1.13. So you can see what all changes have been done in the latest version of npm APM npm package. So we have like the support for the XUI test driver, and see with iOS you can see that there is the deprecated for UI automator driver. So as I said, now the UI automator driver you cannot use. You have to use the Espresso driver or the UI automator 2 driver. And as I said, you can also automate the Windows desktop application and Mac desktop application. So the latest APM has support for all these. Uh, and you can see, like, there are different details given out here. And so this is nothing but the command line version of APM that you can get it installed. And as I said, you can check with your running this command apm-v, and it gives you the version of APM. So okay, going to the next thing that you need is you need the Java development kit. That is nothing but JDK should be installed in your machine. And you should also set the Java home path by going to your environment variables and setting it up. So I already have Java installed in my machine. If I run the command with Java, it tells me, okay, which Java or Java -v. It tells me that, okay, some issue with, I'm not sure why it's not coming. Yeah, so the Java -version gives us the Java version that is installed in our machine. I have the 1.8 this version of JDK, and you have to set your Java home path in your environment variables if you're having a Windows machine, and in your bash profile if you are having a Mac machine. So I spoke pretty much about installing the Node.js. You can skip this if you have got the APM desktop, but it is a good way to have if you want to run APM from command line. And then, as I said, you need to have install JDK from Java home path. And to install the APM via command line, you need to install npm install -g APM. And I didn't talk about APM desktop yet. So uh, if you go to the APM website, and as I said, you have APM desktop available for OS, Mac OS. Uh, just 1 second. Yeah, so you can get the APM desktop installed. Uh, just, yeah, so you can see this is the you can on this page you have the different releases that are available for APM desktop. Latest is the 1.151.1, and you can see it has for Mac, for Windows, for Linux. You can have the setup available. So I have it installed in my machine. If I search for APM, it and I run it. Uh, I guess I need to run it. Yeah, so this is what the APM desktop looks like, and I would go ahead with actually like coming to the demo and showing you how things are working. Uh, but for now, like we can continue with the setup. Like I'll just skip through, because like if it would take more time if we keep on doing this. And so I spoke much about setting it up on Windows. If you want to have a script which can do your setup for Mac and Linux, there is uh, a script which is available on GitHub, which is by Anand Bagmar. There is also a example which you can go through, which talks about APM simple setup and running your first test with APM. So you can go through these URLs which are available for the setting up on Mac and for Linux. These are nothing but shell scripts which have all the setup which can be done, and it will first check on your machine if the required software is there. If not, and then it would install it. uh, so yeah, coming to the next thing, talking about the locator strategies that are used with APM, and if they are derived from Selenium. So basically the common locator strategies that we use, like the ID, the class name, the name, XPath, work in they have support in APM as well, and which are derived from Selenium. And apart from that, APM has its own set of locator strategies. Like we have accessibility ID, we have iOS predicate string, iOS chain, class chain. Then we have with Android UI automator as part of the locator strategy. And there are some of the locator strategy which are with Selenium. Currently, I'm not sure if they have support with APM. I'll just need to check on this, like the CSS selector, the link text, the partial link text, the tag name. So basically, mostly common of your Selenium locator strategies do work with APM as well. And yeah, I'll just yeah. So whatever we have, like I didn't check the space. I would actually go through the chat and the Q&A at the end, if it's okay. Yeah. So coming to the next, now how do we inspect our APM, as in the locators? Even if you're talking about locators, how do we inspect it in terms of the what XPath to use, what ID to use? So for that, we have APM inspector, which comes part of the APM desktop that we have. Uh, I would take the questions in the end, if it's okay. Uh, yeah, it comes as part of the APM desktop that we have. And I forgot to talk about the Android Studio and other related tools. So that also you need as part of your setup. Uh, uh, that you need for your setup. You need to install the Android Studio and you need to set the Android home path. So you can get the steps for these anywhere. Like I would share the slides as well, and also the links where you can find how you can set up your for Windows, for Mac or Linux. Yeah. So talking about the APM inspector, I would quickly like to show it to you guys. So this is what the APM desktop looks like. And as you can see, by default, when you are starting the APM server, uh, it takes the host URL and a port number. So the default port number is 4723, and it takes the localhost 000 as the IP on which your APM server would start. And so there are two ways of starting the APM server. Once, if your APM desktop, you can just open it and click on Start Server. So as you can see, it tells you the APM REST HTTP interface is started on this URL and this port. And another way to start your this thing APM server is by command line. The node module which you installed, the npm package that you installed of APM, you can start your APM server. And also, if you want to change the address for this host as well as the port, you can do that here by changing the command here, like values here even for this. And you can have multiple APM servers also running on different locations, on different servers, a different host and the port. And I would quickly like to show you, like, once I've stopped this and I would just type the command APM on command line. So you can see it starts the APM server, and it starts it on the same default host and the port that we have mentioned, that is actually taken by APM. And if you want to change the address and the port on command line, so I would stop this server which was running as of now. It would terminate, yes. So to change the host, you can mention -a, and if you want to give some another URL, you can mention here. And if you want a different port number, you can mention -p5, and I would give 5723 the port number. And you can see when the APM server is started, it is currently right now on this host and the port. So this is how you can start your APM server. And for running your test, you would need the APM server to be started. So you have uh, there are different libraries. Now what this does is, like, we are starting the APM server and on manually. So you can do it automatically by having the Java code written for it. There are libraries available, or you can you can just hit the command that we are hitting here. You can execute it via some shell script or some bash command in your code, and it would start your APM server. And so I would quickly go and start the APM server from the APM desktop, because I want to show you the APM inspector that you can use to inspect the elements. So there is a APM start inspector session. You can see an icon here, and these are nothing but the logs that you can get. So it tells me that, yeah, I have this APM uh, inspector window open. And then so currently it will tell you that it is using the APM desktop, which I have started, which is nothing but the local host 4723. And but if you want to give some custom server which is exciting, like somewhere else, you can give the host, the port, and the path for that. And if you have some cloud providers, as I said, we have Sauce Labs, Browser Stack, we have Perfecto, pCloudy. So there are different uh, cloud platforms available. You can select any one of them. For that, you need to provide any API key, and like there are different, yeah, you need your username and access key, which would need to connect to that APM server which is running. So currently it is taking this APM server itself. And so yeah, for starting the inspector, you need to pass some capabilities. There are some values that you need to pass uh, in order to it to understand that what it needs to, like where it needs to start the session, where it needs to inspect the application. So I would quickly go on and start my emulator which I have created in the Android Studio. There are two parts, like in part of Android Studio which is needed is the SDK manager and the AVD manager. So the AVD manager is nothing but it is needed to create an emulator. If you want, you can select which Android version you want and which device you want to start the APM to start your emulator. So I would quickly go to the AVD manager which is available, and it opens up this window where I have my virtual devices. I have created a Pixel 3 device with Android 8.1, which is nothing but the API level 27. So if you want to create a new emulator, you can go to this create virtual device. You can select the what type of category or what type of emulator do you need. If you need a TV, you want to test it on a tablet, you want to test it on a phone. And once you have, say, for example, device selected, you can go ahead and you can see there are different like the OS versions available here. There is the R, the Q, Pi, the Android Pi, Android Oreo. You can download the system image and you can create that particular emulator. So I would quickly go ahead and start my emulator, which is I have created, which is of Pixel 3 with uh, API level 27. And so once this is up and running, what I would need to pass as part of the inspectors I need to inspect, I would tell the APM that I need the platform Android. I have the platform version 8.1 and the device name is emulator 5554. So this you can get once your device is up and running. You can run the ADB command, ADB devices. It tells me that list of devices attached are emulator and there's a device. So if I connect my real device which I have with me, and if I okay, so yeah, when I hit this ADB devices again, so it tells me that I have two devices now. One is the real device that I have here, and one is the emulator which is there. So this is nothing but a unique device ID which is showing me here. And for emulator, you can give the emulator name, or as I have mentioned, it goes as a device name here. And then, as I said, I spoke about the automation name. I have here UI Automator 2 mentioned. So I want the automation session to be driven by nothing but UI Automator 2. And then, as I said, which application I want to inspect on. So I have provided via app package and app activity. So I have given the calculator application here. So you can get the app package and app activity by another ADB command, which is there. So for that, you need to first start the application. I would go ahead and launch the calculator application in my emulator. And then there is a command which is there, which basically would tell me that it's an ADB shell command. Uh, I would just need 1 second. Yeah, so this is the command that I have. So it tells me the current focused app, and yeah, it tells me the current focused app which is there on my mobile device, and it tells me the this is the package name, and this is some activity which is running. So this is not 100% sure way to get the, yeah, here we have the package name, and here we have the activity. So you can get wrong on the app activity, as it could not be the main activity to launch the uh, application. And you, there is an apk info app, mobile app, which you can install it in your real device or the uh, emulator, and you can go ahead and check in that which is your launch activity. And usually you should give the launch activity so that it launches the uh, application accordingly. So I would go ahead and like kill it off now, and what I would do is I would the start the session, which is the inspector session. And what it would do, it you can see it would actually launch the application here in my emulator as well. And you can see the logs that are coming up on apm server here. So uh, yeah, you can see the calculator application is launched on my emulator, and also you can see I've got a snapshot here in the apm inspector, and I have got the source as in the form of xml that is there. So I can go ahead and I can inspect the element. So this is nothing but it will tell you the select, and I would basically go to this element. It will tell me that I can use the id which is here. I can use this xpath which is here, and it gives me the attributes of the element. There is an element id, then there is an package which is under it, there is a class name. So this is nothing but it gives me the different values of the element that is present. So I can also select it from here from the source code, and it would show me which one I have selected, and the values will keep on changing. And also you can send the command from here as well. So if I have selected this and if I click on tap, it would actually click 6, and you can see I have here this 6 here, and even on my emulator the command is followed. So, and also if you want to search, say for example, if I have an XPath written and I want to search it on this page, I can go here, I can select the locator strategy. So there is XPath, there is name, class name, UI automator selector, which I set for Android Automator 2. So I can go ahead, and so there is a data matcher which is for Android Espresso. So this is nothing, this is something new which has come up with Android Espresso driver, where you can give a data matcher selector, which you, if you use the latest Espresso driver, where you can use that selector. So I would just go ahead and give my selector like ID, and it would tell me that it has find one element, and I can copy or tap, or like if I want to send some keys. So for example, if we have this text area, uh, if I can get the, yeah, so this is phase me the formula. Yeah, this tells me that it's a text area. If I go ahead and copy this ID, and if I do find here, so it tells me that one element is found. I can go ahead and if I want to enter some number here, I can do send keys. So yeah, something is filled, something is maybe not applied here. will have to clear it first. Uh, yeah, maybe I haven't selected the correct locator strategy here. So yeah, this is like the APM inspector through which you can locate your element. And there is an activity monitor which is present with Android Studio. I'm not sure, I have not used it much. And then there is a UI automator viewer. Automator, I haven't used that much as well as of now, because mostly I have been using the APM. Yeah, something is there with Android Studio. There is an activity monitor as well as your automator viewer through which you can inspect element. But APM desktop is a good way through which you can inspect your elements and get the locator strategies. Yeah, so that's pretty much bit about the APM inspector. And I wanted to talk more about like the how the execution takes place in terms of the under the hood when you uh, like there are different life cycle through which the execution takes place. So first we have the initialization, we have the creation, then there is an instrumentation, and then execution of the command. So I won't go much a deep dive into it. I'll just show you like how the session is created. So for APM to start a test on your mobile device or start the application, there are a lot of things that goes through under the hood. So as I spoke about the desired capabilities, so these are nothing but these are needed for APM server to understand that what kind of driver do I need to initiate, and which device I need to initiate, which application I need to start, and which automation I need to use, the Automata 2 or the Espresso. So this comes as part of the driver creation, which is nothing but as part of the initialization. And then so I would just talk like in over like from overview point of view, not deep diving into these values, because these are nothing but these are the code which are there as part of the APM node module that we download. And these are nothing but the source code which is present, the functions which are called upon when we actually do, when we say new Android driver, and we say on this server, and we pass the capabilities object. Actually what happens is nothing but node modules, like the node packages that we have, the APIs that we have, they are in the form of JavaScript as part of the Node.js implementation, and they are called upon and the functions are executed. So let's not like as in go deep dive into it, just we can see is like what all things are used. So the APM base driver is used, the which I spoke about in the earlier slides. And it actually works on the protocol. As I said, it works on the HTTP protocol. So when we say uh, uh, we have created a Android driver object, and yeah, so this is nothing but like I would say, as in the we create an Android driver object, and then we create a desired capabilities object. We set some capabilities. This could be Android, this could be iOS, this can be Automated 2, Espresso, or the XUI for iOS. And we say the app on which we want to run. So if we are providing the app capability, we don't need to provide the app activity and app package name. So it takes up the application, it installs it in your mobile device, and it launches. And then once we say a new Android driver, we say on which server we want to start, we provide the URL, and then we pass this capabilities object, and it starts the APM session on that particular device with that particular capabilities that we have set. So let's not deep dive much into it. So as I said, it uses the HTTP protocol, and then there is something which it checks the app launch state. So till the time the app is not launched, it would keep on trying. And then there is something, as I said, it checks on which driver it has to start, whether it is Espresso driver or the UI Automata 2 driver. So it checks on based on what capabilities that we are setting. It goes ahead and it tells us that, okay, we need the APM Espresso driver if you have mentioned Espresso here. If you have mentioned your Automata 2, it tells that we need the APM UI Automata 2 driver. So these are nothing but the setup that goes on under the hood. And then if we have told that we need to start the session with the Espresso driver, it would, as I said, the Espresso driver extends the base driver. What it would do is it takes the capabilities that we have passed as part of this object, and it takes some capabilities on its own, which are compulsory, which are needed. And it would create an object, say like there are capabilities which tells us that take screenshot, JavaScript enabled. So these are nothing but some default values which it takes and on its own, and it takes the desired capabilities that we have set, and it merges it, and then it basically assigns it to this capabilities object. And there are server details. As I said, we have mentioned the server here. On this server, it needs to start the session. And after this, uh, so there are a lot of things. Say for example, we need to have an ADB session created. For that, we the APM uses the APM ADB, which I mentioned earlier. It is nothing but the wrapper around the ADB, which is provided by Android, by Google. And then there it comes, like there are some libraries which I said are still used from the APM Android driver. It uses those libraries here. And once that is there, it creates a value which gives us that on this host we need to start on local host, and there is a port, and there is a device port, and then what all APK we need to use, app package, app activity if we have provided. And basically this you can find in the driver.js, which is part of the Espresso driver node module package, which comes as part of APM node module if you have installed. And uh, as I also mentioned that we need like the life cycle also includes once this creation is done, then there is something called as instrumentation that takes place, and then there is execution. So as part of instrumentation, what it actually does is we do a port forwarding, and there we use ADB. So what we do is here, like we have provided the ADB forward command, which takes the TCP 8300 and then it forwards it to TCP 6791. So this is nothing but the connection between your machine on which the APM server is running and on your mobile device where you have your application under test. So once this both are connected via some protocol, say TCP, then we can have HTTP request. We can send some HTTP request to that device, and we can run the test. So I would show this via Postman once we have covered this part. And then, as I said, after the instrumentation is done, it does the execution of the command. So the first command it runs is getting the status. So once our APM server is up and running, there is a endpoint which tells us the status of that APM server, whether it is running or not. So I would quickly launch Postman here, and I would show you how this happens. And once this status is 200, if we get the status 200 for the APM server is up and running, then like it is nothing but a get type of a request that is made. This happens only because we have done the port forwarding, and there is a connection between the local machine and the device which is connected to that machine. Once we have that connection as part of the HTTP, we can send the HTTP request. For example, we are sending the GET request, and we are using the slash status endpoint here to get the status of this particular uh, server that we are using. So what it does is it also does a retry. Say for example, if your mobile device is slow, there is some network issue, so it tries to do a retry with for 20 seconds, and if it doesn't get a 200 request, it throws an error, timed out waiting for Espresso driver. So you must have seen, you receive a lot of exception. It tells you that timeout exception. With Selenium also you must have seen. So this is where the exception comes from in terms of APM. Once if it does not get that it is connected to the server, it will give us connected to the device, it will give us the timeout exception. And once this status is 200, then we can go ahead and start the session. And this session endpoint we can use, and it is nothing but a post, because we are telling that we want to have a session created with that mobile device, and we pass the desired capabilities object. So till this time, till this get the application is not launched. Once we create the session, then the application is launched in the mobile device. And then once you have a session created, and then you can go ahead and do driver.findElement.click and various functions that are there with the APM or Selenium. And so as I said, we get, once we hit this endpoint, we do a post request here, we pass the desired capabilities, we get in response like, okay, now we have a session created, and we have like these values will be written as part of the once the session is started. So I'd quickly show you a demo. As I said that you see, as you can see that I have a get request here which tells me the status. So I would actually for now kill this inspector session which was running. You can see there is nothing running on my emulator. And what I would do is, like, I have the APM session running. I would kill it once and I would start again. And you can see I have given the this host and the port. And once I do the status endpoint, I do a get request. It tells me that yes, I get a 200 response. That means it is successful. I am able to get the status that this server is up and running. And you can see it. You can see here. You can see the logs as well. That what command was hit. You can see this was an HTTP request made to status, and we got the 200 response. So it also tells me the APM server version that we are running. And you can see for now, Deep Singh, do you have any question? Or if we can take in the end, like I'm closing in on the demo, and then we can take the questions if it's okay.
Yeah, Sumit, you can finish the demo and then pick up the
Yeah.
questions at the end.
Yeah. So for now, you can see we haven't got the session ID because the session is not created. And also you can see on my mobile emulator, there is no app launched as of now. And what I would do is, as there was a post request where I said we are doing a session endpoint, and in body, as you can see, I'm passing the desired capabilities object that I want to have a platform Android. Platform version should be 8.1, the emulator name, the device name, then automation name, and app package and app activity. So if you give this app package and app activity, and that particular application is not uh, there in your device, it would give you an error that cannot find this application. So these things are taken care of at the earlier level of where you are like having this uh, things happening under the hood. So when we create the ADB, it, like, if we are searching for that particular app package, app activity, it would give us an error that this application is not there. So yeah, coming here, what I would do is, once I do this send, you can see on my mobile device, the application will be launched. Yep, I would hit this, and you can see in response what I'm getting is, yeah, so here you can see the logs as well. It is trying to run some ADB commands, some UI Automator 2 commands, and you can see the calculator application is launched here. And in the Postman, I get the response 200, and also I'm getting these values. As I said, it would tell me that what device it is, what platform it is, and device API level. So these device API level, it gets from the ADB command, which is the Android ADB. And here in the end, you can see I got the session ID. So what I would do is I would go ahead and use this session ID, and in my request, further request, which I'm trying to make, what I would do is I would try to click on this 7. I would try to do it quickly because there is a timeout there. So what I would do is, like, I'm passing to this URL which has a session. I'm giving the session ID, and then I'm telling I need an element. And in this, I have passed the locator strategy, which is nothing but ID and digit 7, the value of it. So once I hit this, okay, the session got terminated. I would not get the response here, or yeah, it tells me the session is either terminated or not started. So I would need to go ahead and again hit this session, and it would give me a session ID. It would be a new session ID every time we are starting a new session. And also, once this session is started, you can go ahead and hit the status, and you will get the session ID here as well. So it takes some time to start the session because a lot of things are going on under the hood. I would quickly go ahead and copy this session ID, and I would paste it here in my post request. Okay, I guess I copied something. Yeah, so it would give me, okay. Yeah, it gave me the element, and there is this element ID which is there, which you can also find in the APM inspector, which I had showed there were attribute values. So, and if you want to say, for example, click on that element, I would actually need to pass it on in this URL which is there. In this, I need to also change the session ID. I hope the session does not dies off. Yeah, this is the session ID, and yeah, this is the session ID I need to change. This long, okay. Uh, I need to give the element ID here. This is the element ID, and this comes after the element endpoint. Okay, this is the element endpoint. Yeah, now if I do click, yeah, so you can see the 7 got clicked here, and in this I got the response 200 and the session ID and the value true. So you can see these are nothing but the HTTP commands that I ran through Postman, and I had the APM server which was running on here. I did not actually do it via a code or something, and so you can see that you can actually see the commands that are here, that find element is happening. Some commands from the base driver are executed, some HTTP commands are getting executed, and so also I have Java code as well written. So I would launch my IntelliJ to just show you a quick demo as well. So you must see that the APM server, I used the desktop one. You can also use the command line and launch the APM server and hit these requests. There also you can get the result. And so yeah, the basic uh, show was to see that these are nothing but HTTP requests which you hit, and you can actually perform operations and on these on now the session is terminated. Uh, I would quickly show you a demo which I have in Java. So this is nothing but a JUnit test which I have written, where I have @before method, where I am creating a desired capabilities object. I am setting some values. I am starting the uh, Android driver and start trying to start the session on this server and this port. And then in my after I have written the driver.quit command, which would close the driver object, which would close the session. And here I have a test for a simple calculation which is performed. So I would go ahead and actually run this. I would also open the APM server and yeah, I would go ahead and run this. So you can see the commands which would get executed here as well. Yeah, so it's up and running. You can see, yeah, the capabilities are coming as part of here. And as I said, the port forwarding takes place, which was stopped, which our earlier session got closed. And this would also do particularly what we did via Postman. It would launch the calculator app, and 7, I have clicked various keys and I have just done a calculation. So this is nothing but the uh, Java code that is there. So yeah, this you can see I am using the find element by ID, digit 7, digit addition, then digit 9, then equals. So yeah, this was pretty much about the demo part. And so all things mentioned in these things that I mentioned, this life cycle, you can see it in the APM logs as well. there are different commands that are there for HTTP, for UI Automator 2. For as part of instrumentation, the port forwarding takes place, and the deleting the UI Automator 2 session, because we have mentioned driver.quit command. So yeah, that's much about it. Thank you. And I would actually go through the questions from the chat and I would try to answer. So what would be a good practice? Run the test on emulator simulators or in the real device? That depends on your usage, I would say. So running the test on real devices is a challenge, and but what it would do is, like, if you have some application where you want to as in recreate a real time usage, how the apps will perform, uh, on those scenarios you can go ahead with real devices execution. But if it's not that much dependent on your device specific, you can go ahead with emulators and simulators. So a good thing with emulators is it actually uh, like, you can set the RAM version of the emulator, you can set up the memory for that emulator, and you can run your test. So it is closer to what it would be in real device scenario, but then it lacks the a capability where you want to, say for example, put up a SIM card and test some functionality. There you would need the real device. You cannot do it with emulator. And say for example, if you want to test out the battery level, so real devices would give you some real life scenarios where emulator would fall short of. And with emulator there could be like, you need a good machine, you need good RAM support with the machine, because it takes up a lot of memory. It takes up the memory from your machine which is connected, which is running. But with simulators, iOS simulators, there is a good thing that it does not take the memory as in real memory from your machine where the devices are connected. So yeah, it depends on your usage, how you want to go ahead with choosing emulators or simulators or the real device. So coming, why we cannot automate the iOS app using Windows. So for automating the iOS application, you need the use of Xcode, where you have to provide the developer certificate for your application under test. So that with Windows is not yet supported. So when I said we can use test project, for that too, you need an Apple ID, you need a developer Apple ID where you can sign your applications, and then only you can test it. So that is a challenge with iOS application, where you need to sign it using a developer certificate. That is why we cannot yet automate it through Windows. Okay, realize any time, I guess it would be more reliable, but it would be allow someone. Okay, can you please show the command to install specific APM version? So Sneha, I guess I have provided you the command where you can mention the APM npm install -g APM and then @ and then you can provide the version which you want. Yeah, hi Sumit, can you please share those setup? Yeah, I would share the, okay, I would share, we can share it through the slides. You can go through those URLs. The way we have locator preference in web automation, do we have any such ideal preference in mobile world? Yeah, so the preference would be same, I would say, in terms of mobile as well. You can start with going with ID, then class name, and then you can use the CSS and the next path. There's no such preference different for mobile. You can use the same preference for web as in web. We need to pass the session. Okay, is it required to launch the emulator before the start the automated script, or we can launch the emulator through code as well? Yes, you can launch the emulator through code as well. How we can identify locators without having APM Dextra Web means I want to identify elements through command. So identifying elements through command, I'm not sure. Like, as I said, you can use the automator viewer which comes as part of a Android Studio or the Android SDK, but I haven't used it for a while. And if you're using some cloud platform like Browser Stack, they have their own inspector as well, where you can launch the app and identify the locators. So yeah, you can launch the emulator through command script, the automated script as well. You can search for connected devices, and you can launch through ADB command. Can you brief about ADB commands? So there are a lot of ADB commands available so that you can tweak with your Android device. And for real device, if you are trying to use the ADB command, you need to turn on the USB debugging from the developer options. So you need to go to the developer options in your settings as well. Once you're done, yeah, sure. Do we need to learn Java collection framework to write good script? So Java collection framework. So there is a, like, you can use Java collections in your automation script, as it would give you a ease of use. So it's not just related to APM or Selenium. It is like any framework you're using, any language you're using, as in terms of Java. If you have a good as in collections you can use, there are a lot of new uh, in terms of new features coming up with Java 8, that there are stream API, there is a stream, there is a filter which is available with Java collection. Please suggest some good demo app to test. So I would actually share a URL which is there which you can download the APK, and you can it is a actually I guess I have it in my this thing. I would actually install it. One second. Yeah, so this application is provided by, like, if you want to install any application in your emulator, you can just directly drag and drop if you have downloaded in your local machine, and it to install the application. So this application is used in a lot of samples that there is APM Pro. If you go to apmpro.com, there are a lot of new things that come up with APM. So Jonathan Lips, who is nothing but he's a contributor to APM, he's maintainer of the APM. He provides a lot of articles on APM. He uses this application in a lot of his demos. So you can use this. I would provide you the URL for this. There is a login screen, so you can test out a login screen. There are different demos. Web view, if you want to test. So this nothing but launches a web view. Yeah. So yeah, how Jenkins fit in case of execution on multiple devices, parallelization, more on master slave configuration use. Yes, you can use Jenkins here. You can have, like, in my earlier organization, we had say for example, we had a Jenkins mini, as in a Mac mini, where we had connected multiple devices to that Mac mini, and that Mac mini acted as a master, and these devices were acting as slaves. So you can have though that setup done, and you can also do parallel execution with that setup. Okay, a question from Deepak. Can you brief about ADB commands? So yeah, there are a lot of ADB commands. As I said, if you want to check the connected devices, you can run ADB devices command. And if you want to install an application, you can just do ADB install and pass the application. If you want to uninstall it, you can do uninstall. And if you want to run it through ADB shell, it gives you much more, like uh, we use the command to get the app package and app activity. Yeah, so is there any question I missed from Deepak? I would also go through the Q&A section. Yeah, how Android Studio is different from APM. So Android Studio is nothing but as I said, it gives you the Android SDK through which you can run the APM test. It is a library which ADB uses, which APM ADB uses, and you can Android Studio is basically used for development of Android application, and you can use it to debug your Android application. And APM is something which drives the automation for Android, for iOS, for desktop, for Mac application, can be any application. And I have already answered for this. For the IDE you can use is IntelliJ. Do we need to install any additional tool or software to connect real device with APM? No, you don't need to install. If you have the Android SDK setup, if you have the Android Studio setup, Android SDK setup, you don't need any other tool. Just you need to turn on USB debugging from developer options in your settings from your real device. May I know your system configuration? Would start very fast. Mine will take. So yeah, actually I have a good configuration. It's my actually office laptop where I'm running this test, and we have 16 GB RAM. So we need actually good configuration if you are running the APM server, if you are running the Android Studio, if you are running the emulators, if you want to spin up multiple emulators, you need good configuration. And basically a Mac is suggested, and Windows can become slow at times. So yeah, you need good configuration for running the APM test. So for our my earlier organization, as I said, we had a Mac Mini, which was specifically for running the APM test, and nothing else was used on that. And we had a good configuration where multiple Android devices were connected, and we were executing our test. What is the use of ADB port forward? I'm a bit confused with this because we are starting session with port 4723. So this is what ADB does internally. So this depends on the local machine port and what like the internal and the server is started on 4723, but this port is nothing but my machine port on which my APM server is running, and this port is nothing but the port on my mobile device. So the 4723 is the port on which my APM server is running on my local machine, and this is the server is the port for my the machine, and this is the port of my local device. Can you tell us exact flow when cloud devices and Jenkins are used? So there is a different like setup you need for cloud devices setup. You need to provide the access key, which is with you with API key, which is used for your particular account on local on your cloud platform, and you can set it up via Jenkins. You can set it up on your run it through your local as well. So the exact execution flow would happen like once you have triggered your automation script through Jenkins, it would take up the desired capabilities. It would try to like create the automation, the APM session, which is running on the cloud platform, and it would try to spin up the session on that particular device of which you have provided. And you need to provide the credentials of your cloud platform and the API key, which is unique, and it actually connects it to that device and it runs the test. What are the things we should know to be comfortable with APM scripting? So you should so basically the basic Selenium commands that if you have, if you know, you can run APM. And if you want to deep dive into APM, you should know how the Android app is actually developed, or what are the things in under the hood in Android app or under the hood in iOS app. So there are something called as activities in Android application. There is something called as intent, which is there in Android application. So not you need to know everything, but if you know Selenium, if you know any of the languages, say for Java, Python, you're comfortable with, you can pick up APM and you can start executing all the frameworks which you can use with Selenium, say Cucumber, TestNG, uh, any framework, page object model, you can use it with APM. There is no different framework that you need for APM. If I have some app in my mobile and I want to test it, then how can I get path of that application? So you don't need to get the path of that application. The path which I had mentioned in my test was the path of the application which is there in my local in my downloads folder. I have the APK. So if you want to run the test on your uh, with for the application which is there on your in your mobile device, you can launch it manually, and you can check the app package and app activity, and you can provide and you can pass it in your test, and it would launch the app. If you're not able to launch the app, there might be some issue with your launch activity. If you want to get the exact activity, if you have developers, they can tell you, or if you can use the APK info. There is an application on Play Store, you can download that. It would give you the launcher activity, and you can pass that in app activity and launch it. And what is WebDriver agent in case of iOS? So it is a driving thing which you need to as in the start the APM session and connect it to your iOS device. So with Android, you need the APM server. As you can see, as I said, there is an APM server. This is nothing but a UI automate. This is a settings app which is downloaded by the APM server, which drives the execution. So for in terms of iOS, you need WebDriver agent, which drives the execution with your iOS device. I guess I had few more questions in the Q&A section. Can you please tell? Okay, awesome demo. Keep going. Thank you. What is a good practice to have both for iOS and Android testing in one framework? If you have any good resources, then please share to them. Okay. So good practice to have test within one framework is, I would say, if you have the developers, could you please share? Okay, yeah. So if you have the developers, you're working closely with the developers, you can inform that to have the locator strategy common for your Android and iOS. I know it can't be 100% common, but if there is a more closer common between the locators, where you can just have one function and then you can pass the platform name, and depending on it, it would run the test, and a locator strategy can be used the same. So I would share a good resource. I would definitely share it with you. How to run tests parallelly on Android. So you can use TestNG for parallel execution. You can use if you want to have like you can pass the Android device. Say for example, there are different device IDs, unique IDs. You can pass and run the test in parallel. There is a very good framework which is known as APM test distribution, which is developed by the ThoughtWorks people. It is a very good framework if you want to check out. They have their repository open on GitHub. You can download it. You can set it up according to your need, and you can run the APM test in parallel. There would be several Android iOS versions available. How many devices would you test for a project and confirm that function is working fine? So this again depends on your application. This depends on how you want to run your test, whether do you want like your application, you can take out a report on Amplitude. There is something called as you can check out how many live users are using which Android device, which Android version, which iOS device, which iOS version, and then you can have that sort of like you can create a report that which is the most common used Android device, which is the common used version, and then you can have those set of devices run in your framework and run those tests on those. How to handle parallel execution? I would share the APM test distribution link where you can see and go through it. You can use TestNG parallel. You can use all the Selenium grid setup as well. You can use for parallel execution. What is the difference between native and hybrid app? So native app would be something, say for example, a Gmail for this particular device if we have, and if you want to see an hybrid app, as I said, you can see there is something called as once I launch the app, there is something called as WebView. So if you go to this and if you go to apmpro.com, so it would actually open some kind of a web view within your native application. It's not opening right now. So that is kind of a native app where you have a hybrid app where you have the say for example a login screen which is developed in native Android, and then if you have something a web view where you are switching to the web application, say for example some URL if you are hitting. Any framework available in GitHub for reference? Yes, I would share the framework link. Can you share the training video? Yes, we would have the training video recorded and shared. How do catch up your automation suite with new version of APM launch? So that again depends. What you can do is you can go through which is the most stable version of APM, which has less issues. You can go to the GitHub and check if the latest APM version has any issues. So you should not upgrade it. You can try to use the latest stable version which has most of the issues closed, and if it provides enough support for your need of your automation, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Can you share the PPT? Yes, I would actually share everything along with the video as well. And what exactly, yeah, could you share the inspector tool list apart from APM desktop? So I have mostly used APM desktop. Other than that, you can use activity monitor. If I'm not wrong, there is something activity monitor, or there is an automator viewer which comes part of Android SDK, which is used for Android inspection. For iOS, you can use something called as XUI viewer, which is comes part of the Xcode viewer, which comes part of the Xcode, which is needed for iOS automation, and it can run on Mac. What exactly is instrumentation and why is it required? So instrumentation is required because you need to send commands from your say local machine to the Android device or the iOS device. So what instrumentation does is it actually forwards the port so that you can have an HTTP connection made between these two things, your machine where your APM server is running and the device where you want to run your tests. And then you can go ahead and hit the command, say for status, you can create the session, you can do find element, and you can do click and the other operations. So that is why you need the instrumentation. uh, I guess if we don't have any more questions, guys, do you have any more questions? Anyone? You can connect with me on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on Facebook, you can ask me questions anywhere. I'm available apart from this session. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you guys for attending this session. We would we would also like to have another session if there is a need, or if there is a workshop needed. Can you please share Google? Yes, I would. Yeah, I would actually share the URL here itself. We would go ahead and have further sessions if you need. Uh, Postman context was cool. Yes, actually, this is what I learned. These all the learnings have come up from the APM conference that I attended last year. So this session where they showed the Postman, it was by Sai Krishna and Srinivasan. They are contributors to APM, and so you can check their uh, talk. I have shared in the references link here. It is very exciting. They have also shown it for iOS. Maybe we would try to cover it in some another session, and we would also like to have a workshop in future if needed. So yeah, let me know if you are able to access this presentation, or I would need to change the settings. Uh, yeah, thank you guys for attending. It was we had a good number of attendees to start with. Uh, yeah. Okay. Uh,
Thank you, Sumit. It was a wonderful session. Thank you for all that. Big thank you to all the attendees for hanging in there. APM is a
yeah, I guess
yeah,
we went
yeah,
over time of our 1 hour session because these things need a bit of time
true.
to, yeah,
And the topic is huge.
huge. Yes.
By, like as you said, as Sumit said, we can have future sessions which will cover the main topics at depth. Probably one session can be just for locating the elements and like ideal ways to do it. Obviously, context to context it will change, and so on. Like we can have a chain of sessions as well. So
Yes, yes,
you
definitely.
all can visit the Facebook community and let us know in the comment section how was today's session and what else you will want us to cover in the future sessions. So that would really help to schedule. So I'll share these links on the Facebook video comment section as well, so that you can access it later as well. So yeah, so thanks Sumit once again for doing a wonderful session. Big thank you to all the attendees. And
Yeah.
I'm now
Thanks to Mahesh and Test for giving me this platform to, yeah,
yeah,
share
no,
my knowledge.
sure. Yeah, so I'm now stopping the session in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Here we go. Bye bye. Take care and stay
Yeah.
safe.
Thank you all. Bye. Stay safe.